I'm going to return to my topic of concern here. And to make sure you all understand it thoroughly before I take my next steps. And I feel like the citizens of Gilmer County have a pretty good standing relating to actions taken by this board, legal repercussions if necessary. And specifically, I will remind this board that there are ethics issues in question here with regard to conflict of interest. The terms county official or official also include all individuals appointed by the chairman of the board or commissioners and/or board of commissioners as appropriate to set county boards, commissions, authorities, or other bodies which can or may vote or take formal action or make formal official recommendations to the board of commissioners. They fall under sunshine law. Okay? So disclosures must be made. Even if the commissioner did not understand that, even if the committee members did not understand that, there was a legal obligation to the citizens of Gilmer County to make sure we are included in such decision making. In this instance, I'm reading from the Times Courier, one of the properties, 2 parcels totaling 3.04 acres at 654 Progress Road, is owned by a local nonprofit, New Beginnings for Gilmer County. It goes on to say, gives a quote, "The primary goal with this project, possibly called Progress Point, is to make it more affordable with the help of partners in our community for our teachers, public servants, and those kind of folks who are desperate for affordable housing," said Carlene Ferguson. Continuing, it says, Carlene Ferguson, a former county commissioner now and involved with the Gilmer Initiative for Community Housing. So we've established that Carlene Ferguson is part of this sunshine law requirement. We have established that she is making, she's included herself in the Georgia Gilmer Initiative for Community Housing. And we have now established that that initiative was specific to New Beginnings. These are her words, public record. We then see later on Ken Sanford going before the city of LJ for annexation of those same parcels into the city of LJ. Here we have Form 990 from 2023 listing Kent Sanford and New Beginnings as having made donation of $110,000 to New Beginnings. Kent Sanford is a sole incorporator of New Beginnings in 2014. This document came from the city of LJ. Kent Sanford applied for annexation of parcel 654 Progress Road. Mr. Sanford wants to build multifamily units on the property. His goal is to build between 24 and 30 units on the acreage. Last year, Mr. Sanford applied to the city it says access, but I believe it means annex, Progress Road. The decision was postponed, and later the decision in November of 2020, I can't read the last part because it's got raindrops on it from this morning. The LJ City Council annexed that residential property. So this is a clear violation. I don't see whether this Board of Commissioners has any option, unless it wants to be facing legal action by at least this citizen. And I would like to probably be able to get a bunch of more citizens involved for a class action lawsuit if you all fail to remove, to censure Mrs. Ferguson. And also, well, this is just related to her. There's more related to Mr. Marshall. This board is entirely conflicted in that none of you have abided by sunshine law. At least 2 of you are involved in this initiative with Mr. Sanford. And Mr. Sanford is also a JDA member who's an employee of this county, and he used his office to benefit himself in his personal capacity. There is more, but that's all about all I have time for this morning. Thank you.
David, your thoughts on that?
It's just, I really don't have any thoughts on it, to be honest with you. I mean, there's some things that shared, but, again, in particulars, we've looked at it internally, and in my opinion, at this point in time, I don't feel the conflict exists according to the code itself. Now, Mr. Reckles is going to disagree with that, and, there's just not going to be a resolution to that at this point, at this time today. So,
Is this something that we need to look at further, or can we just conclude that there's no conflict?
I don't think, I think as a board, I think individually, each member has to look at it themselves as a determination as to whether or not there's a conflict based upon the information that I shared. And then the board then takes a decision, but I don't think the board has to make a determination if there's a conflict. I think that's the responsibility of the member of the board.
I'm not sure I understand what you're saying there.
You were asking if the board needed to take any action. I don't, it's on the agenda, or perhaps what is coming up is on the agenda. At that point in time, before a member decides to vote, they can either abstain, or they can abstain, realizing that there may be a conflict of interest, or they can participate in the vote. But the board itself, if there's an item on there and that is a vote call for, that will have to be, the board has to decide.
Okay, you're talking about in the April meeting, right? Or whatever might come between now and then. Okay.
This particular property is not in the county that she's referring to, so does that make a difference? It's in city limits.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest with y'all. There's so many disjointed facts and non-facts that are being thrown out, it's really hard to follow the rabbit trail, so to speak. And you can suggest non-facts, the next thing you know, you begin to believe that they are in fact facts. So, but if that parcel is not under this board's jurisdiction, you have no authority over it.
I think the point though was having it annexed into the city was something that came through us.
It did, but that's not something that y'all had initiated. That's always initiated by the applicant. And you're just simply taking action to decide whether or not to allow the annexation to go forward. Historically, this board has not ever opposed any annexation, with the exception perhaps of one, but then the applicant withdrew that application.
Well, having had the training to be on the annexation board, not board, but reviews, I know that there's very, very limited reasons to not allow annexation.
Yes.
I don't recall this meeting, any of those requirements are pretty strict. One thing I know is, let's put it on the agenda and we can just all check it out in the meantime.
And that would be my recommendation.
Can I add something? In our ethics code, it says that when there is a conflict, so when Mr. Sanford had a conflict at the time of at annexation, before this parcel was annexed into the city, he had a duty to put in writing to this board that there is a conflict in that he has interest in this property through an organization, entity, or charity. It doesn't have to be for profit. If any entity he is part of benefits from it, he has to disclose that in writing. I contacted Edwina by email nearly 2 weeks ago, and I asked her if any conflicts had been filed by Mrs. Ferguson, Mr. Marshall, or Kent Sanford, and if anything was in writing in her records, and she said no. So he did not make proper disclosures to this board that he had a conflict or an interest in that property before this board decided to vote to annex. So you were not properly equipped to make that decision, and you deprived this board and the citizens of Gilmer County of that opportunity to oppose.
What would be your recommendation, other than just negating it? As far as the procedure, what would be your recommendation?
Well, I mean, you look at what the recourse is, right? I mean, that you all have a duty to act. You have a duty to act. If you know that your employee, and he is your employee. He may also be the city of LJ's employee. He may also be the city of East LJ's employee. But you, on your part, and he is the part where he's your employee, and he failed to report to you what the law requires he report to you, and he failed to make the proper written disclosures to file it with the county clerk as he's required to, then that gives that's hiding it. It's certainly not giving it. That shows intent. And he maybe have been hiding it in the wide open, but it was not disclosed, and that is the same thing as far as I know. So, the remedy is, David should know what the remedy is. Anybody who, you have a duty to report this to the state authorities, that you have board members who have acted in conflict, the way that I read it. And of course, David maybe read it differently, he's the attorney. But the attorneys that I've had look at this, they've said this is a clear-cut case. I mean, you've got conflict after conflict after conflict. I mean, you've got photographs of Mrs. Ferguson and Mr. Marshall with people they selected to conduct our survey on housing, okay? They selected the person, the company, they had the meetings privately outside of public purview. They were making decisions on the part of this board, you, Mr. Commissioner, and the citizens of Gilmer County, without having without allowing us access. And when pressed, Ms. Ferguson was pressed during her campaign for re-election for post one, she was said, we're having no duty or obligation to report to the citizens of Gilmer County or the Board of Commissioners. This is our private committee. Well, not by the law. And if you, just because you think you're above the law doesn't mean you are. So if I were you, Mr. Commissioner, I would seek the counsel of not David Clark, who, in my opinion, at least in one instance, has a personal conflict because he's the attorney on record of closing on at least one portion of a parcel on Courier Street, which is part of the whole Georgia Communities Initiative.
Excuse me.
Your name and Mr. Sanford's name is public record on a fraction of acreage in the Giordano property to move it over to the RP3 in order for them to, whatever, meet the requirement.
My name is on there in what capacity?
You're just the attorney who oversaw the transference of that small portion
So
on Courier.
where in there does that suggest that I have a conflict of interest?
I didn't say you had a conflict. I said you were aware.
This is reckless.
You were aware.
Aware? I'm not simply prepared to be. You know, I'm going to share something with you, Miss Reckless. When I was a kid, my father used to take a ruler out. He'd say, son, if you look at this ruler, and this marks, this end of the ruler is the beginning of time, marks the beginning of time. And this end of the ruler marks the end of time, which we don't know when it's going to occur. He'd say your life won't even create dust on that ruler. He'd go on to say, you have to live life in such a manner that it's led to its fullest. Because you only get one shot at it. Mrs. Reckless, I think you are missing the target. I believe, in my opinion, that the burr underneath your saddle and the suggestion that everybody is dishonest is simply not. There's a better way of looking at life.
Are you saying your name and Ken Stamber's name were both on a piece of a movement of a parcel of property? Are you saying your signature and Ken Stamber's names are not both on a piece of legal documentation that was filed with the state clerk's office that shows you were aware at least of one portion of Courier Street, affordable housing, you were not on there? Is that what you're trying to tell me? That's the target I should not be focusing on? You don't like it because I don't have a burr in my saddle. It's you all have a problem. Because whether or not you set out to with scienter, or it just happened because y'all just failed to abide by the law, or ignorance, I don't really know. The damage to the citizens of Gilmer County is the same regardless. And I think that we deserve to be heard. You all can't just make decisions behind closed rooms, go out of town, have secret meetings, and then how can you expect our commissioner to sit back and just do nothing? I certainly expect him to do something. And this isn't just disjointed information. I read to you the law. I read to you, unless you're suggesting that the Times Courier is fake news. So yeah, they lied in their reporting. They lied, our Sanford lied in his non-making disclosures. Are you are lying or they are lying? But I suggest that you're, that the only person honest here, and they're not my favorite people, are Times Courier. So I don't know what you all need to do, but I'm not wasting my time here anymore. I like my odds against you, Mr. Clark. You can't seem to win a case for this county.
Okay, we will,
Actually, I got another citizen wishing to speak.
yes, sir.
Doug Wayne, Gilman County resident. I wake up early and decide to attend this meeting. I had no idea what she was going to say. That's for the record. But this gift thing has made